In the last video, I showed you a quick look at how I use my iPad for gigs. Today, I'm going to break down the full workflow from organizing my set list to transcribe charts using either Guitar Pro or handwriting charts from the scratch using an app called Paper. And finally, how I take last-minute notes before a gig. If you play with a function band, the setup can save you tons of time and stress. When it comes to function band gigs, I don't want to carry around loads of paper charts, and also I don't want to worry about any last-minute changes to the set list or to a specific song. The iPad makes everything more reliable and quick for any change. There are three main reasons for me to use the iPad on function band gigs. In first place, that gives me the opportunity to quickly switch between songs in the set list. In second place, there's no need for printed charts to carry around. And finally, I can work on live edits and potentially even transposing songs if a particular singer requires a different key for a song that was already planned in the set list. The main app I use to organize my set list on an iPad is called Piascore. Let me show you how I set it up for a function band gig. So this is how Piascore shows you all the songs that you have uploaded, all the charts that you have ready in the app. And the way you upload them is basically by exporting a PDF and choosing to open it in Piascore. And I think the most important example that I can show you is how I create a new set list. So after choosing and pushing on the set list section on the top of the page, what you can do is to name a new set list. I usually always start with a date. For example, today is the 15th of February. This is a test. And on the right side, you have all the songs that you have available on Piascore. And in my case, let me just show you something that I transcribed myself for the specific purpose of one of the function band that I work with throughout the year. You probably know this song, very famous song from I think mid 2010s, if I remember well. Let me add another one. In this case, let me add one that I wrote using paper. Okay, let's see this one. Let's add just another one. Okay, now that it's saved, this one is the one that we're going to use now for a test. So this is a song that I transcribed using a Guitar Pro, as you can see. And the reason is that this is actually a different key from the original version. I think the original version is D flat, whilst for this particular band and singers we have it in E flat. This is also included in the medley, so there's no way to change the key just for this particular one. Now I want to focus on the second song that I choose here. This is a song by Kings of Leon, and this was originally transcribed using paper, so I actually handwrote this page. At the same time, throughout the years, what I had to do was to add further notes. What you see now on the screen is me being on Piascore with this page, which was originally written using paper, and we will get to that in a second. And some of these notes that I'm taking comes directly from Piascore. So the good thing about Piascore is that you can still, if you have a pencil, or even if you have just by using your fingers, you know, I'm now just tracing lines at the bottom of the page with my fingers. But it goes without saying that if you have a pencil, you can get way more precise notes. And if you remember my last video, what I mentioned is that my iPad is actually an old standard version from 2018, so nothing fancy about it, and this is still the very first edition of the Apple Pencil. So really budget solution, but very effective. So on this page, like I said, this was originally written in paper and exported to Piascore as a PDF, but at the same time probably I was just using a last minute other type of transcriptions, and that's why I originally wrote in E minor, but for the way I play this, it makes more sense to just call it C over E, because I will be essentially highlighting the low E open strings whilst I play C chord. This is the way I like to write for this particular song, because this is very immediate to me to remember. If I'm on a C chord but in the previous bar, I can just add the E open string in the next bar. The other thing that I've added is a bit of a tab for the very first sort of lead notes that you can hear before the singing starts. To be fair, I don't usually play that part because I'm the only guitarist, and I just just try to stick to the rhythm until I get to the guitar solo, which I play exactly as is in the recording. Again, the other thing that I usually do is to put some colors according to if is there any differentiation that I need to put from the first round to the second round and I don't have much space. I usually like to have different colors to tell me what's happening. And the third one that I use here is a very famous song by Lizzo. I use Guitar Pro again, but in this case I chose to just highlight the actual rhythm, so you have the name of the chords and the rhythm that I should be using for my strumming. Before moving on, let me show you how I use this Bluetooth pedal to switch pages within a set list on Piascore. If you watched my last video, you know that this is part of my function band setup. So what I usually do is I just need to power the pedal on, and in a few seconds it pairs automatically with the iPad. And right now I'm on the first page of the set list, and if I push this button on the right side, I can move forward on the set list, and of course with the other button I can come back. Like I mentioned in my previous video, what I usually do is that I transcribe each one of the songs to be played in a particular set. If there is time enough and the song is not too much complicated in terms of structure and changes, what I like to do is to use Guitar Pro to write a proper, well-clean chart. There's a lot of tutorials about how to use Guitar Pro, so I don't feel like there's much that I can add right now. But what I want to show you is the way I use paper to handwrite some of the charts that I'm including in my function band set. So this is how paper presents in sort of albums, and what I did previously was to import a stave sort of page and make it as the background of this particular page. Now there's a few different solutions that you can use, different website that offers free stave pages. I think Berkeley also has one of those. I will probably leave some links in the description below for you guys if you want to check them out. But essentially this is a ready to go page. What I usually do, you can imagine that with my pencil. Let's say that this song is called Test. Actually, let me try to write a bit better. Test song. And there's a lot of tools in this app that allows you to move things around, to use smaller down, or to make them bigger. This is enough for the moment. The more we go on, the more you'll see, guys, that this can become even quite pretty if you have a good handwriting, which is not my case. But let's imagine that we have, of course, an intro, so I'm free to write some sort of section and start, you know, figuring things out. Let's imagine that this is one of those happy songs that everyone wants to hear in a wedding, particularly here in the UK. Let's see if you guys make a guess of what song is this one. But essentially, let's say that we have this chord progression, has to be repeated, and then we enter some sort of verse where maybe I just need to use the same sort of structure and chords. So what I'm going to do is to copy this to make these all part quicker and placing right onto the next line. But maybe in this case I will need to add some sort of arpeggios, so I'm gonna just write here as a reminder. I can add this as well. And then let's say we have a sort of I'm gonna call this a pre-chorus, where it's not just about having different chords to play, but maybe also different endings. So I'm gonna try to save a bit of space here. I'm thinking about two different endings. Actually, I'm placing here the first ending and here the second one. Something like this. There's a few tools that helps you to make this looking a bit more clear and pretty. There you go. There you go. Of course, you can imagine that then you have a chorus. Oops, no, with this one. And then I'm not filling in all the chords now, but just to give you the idea, I mentioned about colors and the way that I try to make everything more clear on the stage. So if, for example, I have more section that has to be repeated, I like to add a bit of that. And then of course I might just be using the usual symbols if there is any specific portion that has to be repeated. Again, let's imagine to try and make this a bit more pretty if I can. And you can imagine that you can be done with this, and once you are done, what you can do is to export this as a PDF, and you can go straight into Piascore. Piascore opens the page straight away. Of course, the way Paper names the files is a bit different, so you want to change that to make sure to make it clear for you. So this was the test song, and now that the test song is ready, I'm gonna add it to the set list that we just created. It pops up in the recent songs on the right side, so I'm gonna just push on that, and at this point let's see if we have the test song. There you go. So let me show you now a set list from a real gig situation. This is one that was from the last few months, and in particular, as you can see, there's a total of 22 numbers, but many of them are medleys or are actually a mix of many songs. But as you can see, this is a mix of the original Guitar Pro transcription that I made with some extra notes here on the bottom of the page. They are just reminder for me to what happens next. For example, in respect, I have to take a few lead notes as an intro, and I just want to be ready before I switch the page, so that's why they are there. Same in the next one. From respect, we go to car wash, and I just have this sort of quick reminder of those sort of ghost notes with the wah. Then there's good times and so on. But I want to show you in particular the other good thing about Piascore, but to be honest also about Fourscore, which is the main app for this type of situations. I didn't mention that before, probably everyone knows that. I just think, and I hope that from what you've seen right now, Piascore is a good alternative for free. For example, in this second medley after American Boy, we were told on the day that we should have skipped to another song, and skipping these many before getting to what's next. You might imagine that it's going to be a bit annoying for me to push the button on the pedal and switching around all of these songs before reaching what is really next on that gig. So what I can do here is to add some jump buttons, and since I need to switch from American Boy to Fireworks, I'll be placing here, add jump button, close, and now the moment I am on this particular song, at the end of it, I know that I shouldn't be doing this, but I should actually push the button, and that takes me straight to the actual next song. So this happens, is quite common that we have this sort of change that we need to act on very quickly, and I love the way that Piascore make it very easy. So again, a mixture of Guitar Pro transcriptions, Paper handwritten charts, both gets into Piascore, and on Piascore I can also add more handwritten notes, adding jump buttons, creating set lists, changing the order. Yeah, the other thing that of course I can do is say that maybe we are told that we actually need to invert or change things around at some point. We can always do that. We can also order by tags. I actually tagged some of the songs, so if I have to call straight away a particular medley, I can just go through that route instead. And this all helps me to make everything as easy and as smooth as possible. The setup completely changed the way I play gigs. If you struggled in the past as well with messy paper charts or you've forgotten set list, this could be a game changer for you too. So now let me know in the comment section, do you use an iPad for your gigs or you still rock paper charts? If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys very soon.